Revealed: how a millionaire's unexpected act transformed a disabled boy's life after abandonment. Oliver sat on the library's worn carpet, surrounded by tomes that promised escape, but today the words felt heavy. With a trembling pencil, he scribbled notes about distant galaxies, black holes, and the possibility of life beyond Earth. His heart raced with each revelation. What if he could discover something that changed everything? But beneath the thrill of his thoughts lay a darker truth. He felt like a ghost, drifting through corridors of mockery at school. The laughter of classmates echoed in his mind, mocking him for his limp and the crooked line of his spine. Each cruel word etched deeper into his soul, the heaviness a constant reminder of abandonment. Was he destined to be alone? In a town like Maplewood, individuality was a double-edged sword. Oliver knew this all too well. He wanted to share his love for the stars, but fear clung to his throat like a noose. If the others could laugh at him, what would they do if he dared to dream out loud? He bit his lip, the taste of metal from his gnawed anxiety filling him with desperation. What if he never escaped this cycle of loneliness? He finished his notes, catching the eye of a librarian, who gently smiled at him, a fleeting signal of understanding. But instead of warmth, it ignited a spark of determination. This boy who had witnessed the world turn its back on him, could he truly achieve something? The idea that he might one day present research to a community that ridiculed him felt miles away. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, imagining a crowd wrapped in rapt attention as he explained astral phenomena. Would they listen, or would they laugh? The thought sent an icy dread coursing through his veins. He was tethered to a past that weighted him down, yet the flickering dreams of untouched galaxies danced above him like stars, teasing and ultimately taunting. The moment became a storm. A voice sliced through his thoughts. It was the dreaded crew of bullies gathering for another round of torment. Their laughter seeped through the library's walls, ugly and pervasive. Just last week they had taunted him about his physique. "Hey, don't trip over that stardust on your way to nowhere, Oliver." Their voices echoed cruelly. He flinched at their every jab, an internal alarm urging him to flee. But what would fleeing mean? Would he coil back into the shadows, a boy whose dreams withered beneath the weight of their disdain? Caught in that moment of anguish, Oliver dropped his pencil and looked around. The familiar fear gripped him as he registered that he might just be another forgotten dream, one just like his mother. The weight of the world pressed down on him as he squeezed his eyes shut against it all. Would he be lost to the town's unyielding perceptions? A lightning bolt of thought struck. Perhaps he was destined to find a way to bridge the chasm of isolation choking him. But he couldn't take that leap alone, could he? The chaos of his thoughts spiraled, leaving him teetering on the edge. Would his distant stars ever break through this darkness? Or would he remain an unfulfilled promise, an echo lost in Maplewood? Each beat of his heart resonated with uncertainty. Answers eluded him like shadows. What if he stepped forward tomorrow, dared to change his narrative? What if he stayed? The storm of doubt swirled as he braced himself for the impending decision, one that might redefine who he was, yet terrified him more than anything else. With a deep breath, Oliver rose from the carpet, the soft thud of his sneakers breaking the silence of the library. He was tired of being haunted by the echoes of laughter, tired of feeling irrelevant in the expanse of life. But where could he start? The uncertainty wrapped around him like a heavy cloak, and yet he felt a flicker of resolve within the folds. He glanced at the librarian's thoughtful smile and felt an urgency to communicate, to connect. The ink on his notes and the paper that held his dreams were not enough. Perhaps it was time to share his thoughts aloud, even if it terrified him. Gathering himself, he walked toward the librarian. "Excuse me," he stammered, his heart racing. "Do you think there's a possibility for someone like me to give a presentation someday about space and the stars?" The librarian's eyes sparkled with encouragement. "Absolutely, Oliver. Everyone has a story worth telling." Her response was just the boost he needed, illuminating a path he had yet to consider. His fingers brushed the spines of the books as he wandered back to his corner.
What if he organized all those swirling thoughts? What if he prepared a presentation not just for himself, but for those classmates who looked past him? He envisioned a small crowd forming, curious and hungry for knowledge. The notion was almost intoxicating. Now came the practicalities. He began to brainstorm topics. Black holes? Galaxies? The vastness of the universe? This wasn't merely about making a statement. It was about claiming his space and challenging the misconceptions surrounding him. As he listed potential subjects, he felt the weight of his anxiety begin to lift, if only slightly. But a darker thought intruded. What if they laughed again? What if they ridiculed him for being bold? It wouldn't be the first time.
The fear coiled back, whispering insidiously in his ear. No, not this time. He had to find a way to silence that voice. Motivated by the need to prepare, he dove into research. Hours melted into days as he consumed books, watched documentaries, and connected concepts that interwove science with the poetic beauty of the cosmos. He found joy in every discovery, like tiny stars igniting within him. Each fact not only strengthened his knowledge, but also kindled confidence he didn't realize he possessed. To test his skills, Oliver decided to talk to the school science club. Maybe they would understand the passion burning inside him. Standing before the club members felt like approaching the edge of a cliff. Hi everyone. I wanted to share some ideas about space, he said, his voice wavering at first, but gaining strength with each word. As he spoke, he began to notice the initial glances of doubt shift to intrigue. Their smiles and nods filled him with something previously unknown, a sense of validation. But before he could fully embrace this newfound momentum, the lingering shadows of the bullies crept back. They had seen him talking, and laughter erupted out of nowhere. "Look at the starry-eyed nerd," one of them jeered. Oliver faltered, the jeer cutting through the moment of triumph. His heart dropped, fear clawing at his throat as he stood still, torn between embarrassment and the fierce urge to push through. But then, a revelation ignited within him. What if he flipped this narrative? What if their taunts fueled his determination instead? What if every laugh was simply a challenge waiting to be turned into motivation? He locked his gaze on the science club, buoyed by their support, anchoring himself even as chaos swirled around him. He would not shrink back. He would embrace his dreams. This was his moment, perhaps the first step in a journey destined to shatter expectations. As he opened his mouth to continue, the words bursting forward like a star going supernova, Oliver realized a truth. He was no longer just a boy adrift. He was a force ready to challenge the world. But just as he pressed on, an unexpected voice broke in, a familiar one, this time not from the mocking crowd, but from someone he didn't expect to confront directly. "Are you really going to put yourself out there like that?" they sneered, doubt lacing each syllable. With a surge of determination, Oliver realized the chance was here, the confrontation now unavoidable. In this pivotal moment, everything hinged on how he responded. Would he retreat into the shadows, or step into the light he had struggled to claim? The choice loomed before him, and he grappled with the gravity of it as he prepared to answer. Oliver could feel a rush of heat across his face as the laughter and jeers blended into a cacophony of doubt. Yet through the discord, he heard the steady pulse of his own heartbeat, a reminder that this moment was pivotal. Seconds stretched into elongated responses in his mind, where he wrestled with the voice of his potentially cruel opponent. "Why wouldn't I?" he responded, his voice steadying as he squared his shoulders. The challenge hung in the air like a weight. Could he confront this doubt, or would he falter once again? "Are you seriously this desperate for attention?" the taunter shot back dismissively. But Oliver sensed the shift. The crowd was leaning in now, intrigued. A flicker of anxiety surfaced, but Oliver latched onto the idea that this was an opportunity. The atmosphere crackled with uncertainty and potential. "You know what? I am desperate," he declared, his voice rising with conviction. "Desperate to share what I love. Desperate to show you that the universe is filled with mysteries that make life incredible." He could feel the surprised murmurs within the crowd. The more he spoke, the deeper he sloughed off the inhibitions that had chained him for so long, remnants of ridicule and isolation crumbling. Oliver pushed on, his mind racing optimistically, intertwining knowledge and personal anecdotes, digging deeper into his passion. He spoke about his fascination with black holes, the idea of time bending, and how stardust formed the very essence of existence.
He could see the eyes of his peers widen, not with laughter, but with curiosity. He fought against the doubt that had haunted him. He was not an outsider today, but an explorer of a universe that beckoned for discovery. As he finished a particularly engaging explanation about the life cycle of stars, he regarded the realization surfacing within the crowd, a shift from jeers to engagement. For the first time, he felt the spark of camaraderie. The energy in the room was transforming, igniting laughter, fueled not by derision, but genuine intrigue. Maybe it's not about wanting attention, he persevered, capturing their focus. Maybe it's about wanting to open us all up to the possibilities beyond our little lives. The taunting laughter faded, replaced by a current of supportive energies. Yet he could not shake the taunter's earlier comments. Would the seed of doubt spread anew, or could he extinguish it entirely? Suddenly, Oliver was acutely aware of the pressure from the bully. Feeling the urge to shrink away, he stood firm, realizing this was more than just a confrontation. It was an affirmation. He could redefine his narrative. With a last surge of courage, Oliver addressed the bully directly. "You're right. It's about more than me. It's about all of us breaking the mold, questioning what we believe is possible." Their eyes met. The bully's confident facade cracked slightly, revealing a hint of uncertainty. A ripple of gasps traveled through the room. In that singular moment, Oliver saw doubt transform into disbelief. Each heartbeat marked an acknowledgement. His voice gained strength, fueled by a mingling sense of vulnerability and determination.
But then the thrill of triumph and newfound confidence threatened to pull him off balance. What would come next? Would the taunts turn sharper, or would he discover allies he hadn't counted on? As he took a breath, a scattering of applause broke out from the scientific club, a rewarding echo that bounced off the walls, underlined by a wave of something Oliver hadn't fully expected: acceptance. He smiled, igniting the warmth of possibility. Yet as the cheer settled, he spotted the bully's glare, unforgiving, still laced with challenge. Something deep in Oliver ignited, and he sensed that this was merely the beginning. The next question came unbidden, teetering on his tongue like a comet on a collision course. What would he do now that he'd found his voice? The moment felt electric. He wanted to take it further. The only way forward was deeper exploration, but that required facing new challenges. "Who's with me?" he called out, each word resonating with defiance and hope. As the room began to fill with voices of encouragement, Oliver felt his heart race. But when he noticed a lone figure step out from the back, it struck him that the greatest challenges were not behind him, but ahead, wrapped in mystery and limitless potential. The future felt heavy with unanswered questions, and he realized the true fight was just beginning, culminating with a daunting thought. Could he keep this momentum and discover more about himself than he ever imagined? The time had come to face not only his bullies, but the vast unknown awaiting him. With the applause ringing in his ears, Oliver felt a wave of exhilaration wash over him. Yet beneath that surface excitement lay a churning whirlpool of uncertainty. The crowd's approval invigorated him, but it also placed an undeniable weight on his shoulders. He now had to sustain this newfound affirmation. There was no turning back. As he stepped down from the makeshift podium, the world around him blurred momentarily. His mind raced, analyzing the next steps to ensure this wasn't just a fleeting moment of courage, but the beginning of something tangible. Could he continue this momentum in the weeks to come? The thought of sustaining his voice, of fostering a dialogue about the cosmos that could resonate beyond this one meeting, felt daunting yet incredibly alluring. "Oliver," the voice cut through his concentration. He turned to see Jenna, a fellow club member known for her sharp insights on astrophysics. Her presence had always brought a sense of camaraderie, someone who appreciated the depths of conversation about the universe, just like him. "You were fantastic up there. I didn't know you had it in you." "Thanks, Jenna," he said, surprised at the warmth in his response. "I just felt compelled to share." "You should keep going. Have you thought about doing a presentation for the next club event?" she asked, enthusiasm glimmering in her eyes. A frisson of panic shot through him.
Speaking in front of the group had felt liberating, but now the idea of a full presentation seemed vast and intimidating. What if he stumbled? What if the doubt crept back in? I don't know," he replied, feeling the walls of self-doubt begin to close in. "Why not?" she prodded gently, a knowing smile on her face. "You made them listen. That's a huge step. I think you'd really inspire people." "Maybe, but what if they aren't interested in the topics I choose? What if I say something wrong?" His voice faltered, the doubts rising. Jenna studied him, her brow furrowing slightly. "Do you think that was a concern just now? You speak about the universe with passion.
That's what matters. The knowledge and excitement will shine through, I promise. And more importantly, you're not alone in this. We're the club, remember? Each word resonated within him, lifting him from the spiral of anxious thought. Jenna's support was invigorating, piercing through the fog of doubt. The prospect of change began to take shape as a glimmer of hope rather than a looming shadow. What if I did it about the mysteries of black holes? Oliver suggested, an ember of excitement kindling inside him. He could delve into the theories that fascinated him most, share how they influenced his understanding of existence. No what if about it. You should, Jenna beamed. I can help you organize your thoughts if you want. This could really be your chance to shine. The prospect scared him, yet the anticipation was undeniable. If he could prepare thoroughly, maybe this would be his opportunity to embrace the spotlight. As a wave of determination washed over him, he felt the size of the challenge start to diminish. The fear was still present, but tempered by the excitement of new possibility. As they spoke, the haunting taunts of the bully echoed in the back of his mind, a reminder that each success would likely draw the gaze of those intent on belittling him. Would the taunts resurface with new vigor as he placed himself in a position of greater visibility? Despite the thought, Oliver found resolve amidst the uncertainty. He wasn't simply reclaiming his narrative, but building something new, a framework for profound dialogue. "All right, I'll do it," he said, adrenaline surging through him. "I'll present at the next meeting. Let's make it captivating." Jenna's eyes lit up with excitement. "You're going to blow us all away." The exhilaration from his decision soon evolved into a more profound reflection. What else lay dormant within him, waiting for the right moment to emerge? Oliver pondered the breadth of potential, flickers of confidence igniting within his thoughts. He was poised on the edge of something significant, individual growth, professional aspirations, and perhaps even confronting his deepest fears in the face of adversity. Was he ready to take this plunge?
A part of him remained tethered to self-doubt, whispering questions that veiled the route ahead. Would the discoveries along this new journey strengthen his resolve, or tear down the barrier he had just begun to construct against negativity? The sense of impending personal evolution pressed against him like gravitational waves, and he couldn't shake the feeling that there were deeper battles looming, ones that demanded he explore the true depths of his capabilities, more intricate than black holes. "Oliver!" a voice called from behind. Turning, he saw the bully approaching, a fascinated but dangerous gleam in his eyes. The tension coiled tighter, inviting confrontation. What choices lay ahead when it came to facing the true adversaries, both external and within? Oliver felt his heart quicken as he recognized the figure advancing towards him. The bully's sneer was unmistakable, a cruel reminder of painful encounters from the past. Yet the approaching confrontation felt different now, charged with the tension of his recent transformation. As the distance between them closed, his mind raced, weighing his options and analyzing the thrill of the unknown. "Look who decided to play the star," the bully jeered, his eyes glinting maliciously. "Thought you could just step up and talk to everyone like you own the place?" With each taunt, a vivid recollection of his earlier fear surged up, but Oliver held on to his resolve. Yes, he felt fragile, like a newly formed star in the vast galaxy struggling against darkness. Yet those flickers of promise, his recent success, Jenna's encouragement, flared brightly within him. "I'm just trying to share my passion," Oliver replied, his voice steadier than he anticipated. The words tasted unfamiliar but invigorating. "Passion?" the bully scoffed, taking another step closer. "As if anyone cares what you think. Just wait, you're going to crash and burn, just like always." A wave of anger bubbled beneath Oliver's surface, battling against the self-doubt that had always plagued him. He pictured the upcoming presentation, the black holes he planned to explore, the mysteries of the universe that had ignited his fervor. What if he turned this moment into a stepping stone, a critical confrontation that would sharpen his strength? "I'm not afraid of failure," Oliver said, determination underscoring his words. The bully's brow furrowed momentarily, caught off guard by Oliver's unexpected confidence. The shift in dynamic felt palpable. He was no longer the timid boy that had been an easy target. In this moment, Oliver understood something crucial about himself. He had the power to redefine the narrative, to transform the fear into fuel for his growth. "Whatever, loser," the bully huffed dismissively, but the startled flicker in his eyes hinted at the possibility that he sensed a change in Oliver, one that could no longer be easily dismissed. As he turned to walk away, Oliver felt a rush of triumph surge through him. Each small interaction, each confrontation became a microcosm of his broader ambitions.
His presentation became a metaphor for the way of life he aspired to cultivate, one that embraced vulnerability while standing firm against intimidation. Even isolated challenges began to take on a new significance, and the remnants of his insecurities felt less suffocating. As he walked away from the awkward encounter, his heart raced with more than fear, it pulsed with purpose. What choices had held him back? What truths about himself remained undiscovered? Every conversation, every flicker of courage, built a narrative he was finally beginning to recognize. For the first time, he felt the urgent need to prepare, to dig deeper into the subjects that had always fascinated him. His mind began strategizing how to illustrate the magnificence of black holes, a cosmic enigma mirroring the complexity of his journey. How could he connect the subtleties of astrophysics to his personal evolution? As he sat down to draft his ideas that evening, the anticipation swelled within him, intertwining with his fears. Would he find a way to believe in his message completely? Could he transform his passion into something that resonated? But questions lingered. The whispers of doubt had not silenced completely. What if he failed to capture the audience's interest? What if, come presentation day, he stuttered or forgot his material? The thought clung to him like gravity, an insistent reminder of the potential for failure that still hovered in the background. Determined to face these fears, he realized he had only begun to peel back the layers of his own identity. As his pen scratched against the paper, he felt the implications of his actions settling heavy like cosmic dust, cradling within them the essence of possibility. He could sense that the moment of reckoning was fast approaching. All of it, the bullies, the applause, the fears, and the anticipation, served as prologue to the main event. The intensity of the examination turned inwards, revealing the truth he had yet to confront. Was he ready to face the deeper truths of who he was and what he could be? Just as the weight of these realizations set in, an unexpected thought flashed through his mind. What if something more sinister awaited him beyond just his feelings of inadequacy? A persistent anxiety swirled within him, blurring the lines between his past and the path forward. Could he decode the complexities of his own existence before it was too late? The answers awaited, and they beckoned him closer. As dawn broke the following day, Oliver awoke with a burning ember of determination. The sun streamed through his window, igniting the shadows that danced across his room, an echo of his own internal struggle.
He had experienced a shift that filled him with both hope and trepidation, a commitment to become something more than the quiet observer of his own life. With his upcoming presentation looming, Oliver felt the pressure build. It was as if he were standing on the precipice of a great void, staring into the possibility of failure on one side and the fear of never realizing his potential on the other. His thoughts churned, reflecting on the juxtaposition of confidence and doubt. How could he harness this moment, use it to propel himself toward a version of himself he had yet to fully embrace? His laptop hummed to life, and he opened a blank document. Stone-faced, but trembling with excitement, he crafted his opening lines. Black holes are not just cosmic phenomena. They represent the complexities we face in our own lives. The words flowed freely, illuminating connections between scientific truths and personal revelations. For every syllabus that threatened him was an equal and opposing force of resilience. He recalled the bullies' dismissiveness and how it had carried a weight far heavier than any eroding insecurity. That exchange wasn't just about bravado. It served as a catalyst for Oliver to confront the tectonic shifts within his psyche. He gripped the pen tighter, anchoring his random thoughts to the page. These paragraphs weren't mere words. They were steps toward redefining himself. As he delved deeper into the intricacies of black holes and their paradoxes, Oliver discovered parallels to the intricacies of his own fears. He contemplated the event horizon, that boundary of no return. What if, just as light cannot escape from a black hole, he too had been on a path of no return, shackled by the expectations and taunts from others? But the more he explored, the more he recognized the power of escape. There were ways to break free, to emerge rejuvenated from the cosmic chaos. He took a breath, feeling the familiar surge of anxiety rising within him. Just behind the excitement of discovery lay the shadows of what if. What if nobody understood what he was trying to convey? What if his voice faltered at the critical moment?
Yet he dismissed the doubt cautiously, reminding himself of the transformation that was unfolding. He could do this. He was no longer the boy who had given in to fear. The clock ticked mercilessly, urging Oliver to fortify his resolve. He focused on breathing deeply, centering himself in the moment. Each practice run before the mirror honed his delivery. He could see his past self reflected in the glass, a visage that seemed more radiant and determined with each rehearsal. The shift was gradual but undeniable. Each articulation of his passion pulled him closer to acceptance of his voice, his story, and the potential embedded within him. As the day of the presentation approached, Oliver experienced an invigorating blend of anticipation and dread.
Realizing he hadn't merely prepared to speak about black holes, but to share his journey, one encompassing courage, discovery, and the unyielding spirit of defiance, filled him with an unexpected strength. Yet a flicker of unease remained, suggesting that the most significant confrontation was still to come. It wasn't just the presentation, it was facing those innate threats of inadequacy head-on. He grappled with a thought that wormed its way into his mind. The most profound lesson might not be about cosmic wonders, but rather about unearthing the power of self-acceptance in a world that constantly beckons for conformity. As Oliver stood before his mirror one last time, wearing the resolve of 1,000 stars igniting in unison, he felt a chaotic mix of anxiety and excitement. He reminded himself of the stakes. They weren't just academic, they were deeply personal. The crowd in the room would not only be listening to his interpretation of the cosmos, but they would also witness a significant moment of personal evolution. They would see him reclaiming his narrative, taking his first steps into a brighter, more authentic existence. At that moment, the door of uncertainty creaked open just wide enough for a thought to slip through. What awaited him on that stage was bigger than just applause. It was as if the universe had conspired to give him the chance to redefine everything he thought he knew about failure and success. As he stepped out of the safety of his room, a single question hung in the air, a question that set the tone for what lay ahead. Would he break through the gravitational pull of doubt, or would he remain tethered to the remnants of his past? The answer was just beyond his reach, waiting to unfold. As Oliver walked down the hallway, each step felt like a battle between anticipation and anxiety. The closer he got to the auditorium, the heavier the weight of unarticulated fears bore down on him. It wasn't the content of his presentation that rattled him, but the voices that echoed within, the childhood whispers of inadequacy that surged like a high tide. Was he truly ready to confront them, to stand in a spotlight that could either illuminate or expose him? With each passerby offering him friendly nods, Oliver's heart raced. It was as if they were unwitting participants in a ritual of judgment. He sought solace in deep breaths, letting determination wash over him like a soothing balm, but the undercurrents of doubt lingered just beneath the surface. What if his voice broke mid-sentence? What if he stumbled over the core concepts he had rehearsed countless times? Arriving at the auditorium door, he paused, feeling the chill of the air wash over his skin. It was now or never. Inside, a murmur of excitement crackled like electricity. A wave of expectancy greeted him. Oliver took a moment to observe the audience, faces ranging from skepticism to anticipation. Some looked bored, others intrigued.
This was the moment he faced not just an audience, but an image of his worst fears. He stepped onto the stage, the lights bathing him in a warm glow. It felt surreal, as if he were both present and an observer of his own performance. The microphone stood imposing before him, embodying the essence of power and vulnerability all at once. He cleared his throat, every eye in the room turning toward him, a piercing truth that caused a shiver to run down his spine. "Good afternoon," he began, his voice steady despite the tremor coursing through his palms. A few nods and smiles encouraged him to continue, and he drew from their warmth, banishing the shadows that clung to his confidence. He connected the complexities of black holes to the very fabric of human experience, struggles, fears, and the moments of light we cling to in the void. As he spoke, the words fell into place, reinforcing his claims. He likened the event horizon to critical junctions in life where decisions seem irreversible. Would he let fear dictate his path,
Or would he allow himself to be seen, truly seen, for the first time? With each point made, Oliver felt more in control, more empowered, as if he were snatching back the narrative from years of self-doubt. Yet, just as he reached the pinnacle of his argument, he caught sight of an old classmate nestled in the front row. The familiar sneer of contempt hadn't faded. It caused his chest to tighten. Memories flooded back, the taunts, the pressures, the overwhelming sense of never being enough. It was a destabilizing moment, and he had to fight to keep his voice steady. Just as black holes devour all light, insecurities can consume our potential, he pressed on, channeling the tension into strength. Yet the remnants of past pain clawed at him, desperate to pull him back into the shadows. The struggle became a battle of wills, his present self against the echoes of his past. Would he let them claim victory tonight? The conclusion of his presentation arrived without his full awareness, but an unmistakable fire burned within him as he declared, "We possess the capability to escape our singularities, to re-emerge full of light." Oliver could feel the resonance of his words. Standing there, sharing his truth, he understood he was no longer just presenting, he was breaking free. Applause erupted as he stepped away from the podium. A flood of relief washed over him. Yet an unshakable thought lingered as he retreated backstage, reflecting on the barrier he had crossed. The confrontation would continue. It was only the first of many battles against those whispers. What awaited him back among familiar faces? Would acceptance seep in, or would the specter of his past overshadow this breakthrough? The answers loomed, tantalizingly close, yet still shrouded in uncertainty. Backstage, the cacophony of applause faded into an echo that pulsated against the walls.
Oliver leaned against the cool surface of a metallic structure, breathing deeply, conscious of the surreal juxtaposition between the exhilaration of his accomplishment and the nagging feeling of disbelief. Had he really just delivered that presentation, transforming years of angst into something concrete? The thought brought both a rush of pride and a flood of new questions. Was this a fleeting moment, or did it mark a shift in his trajectory? In the shadows, he caught glimpses of fellow speakers, their exchanges light and enthusiastic. He wondered if he would ever belong to that circle, free from the fetters of self-doubt that still clung to the edges of his confidence. Did they face similar inner turmoil, or were they simply adept at concealing their battles? Steeling himself, he ventured into the mingling crowd, searching for familiar faces that might offer reassurance. The murmurs of conversation enveloped him like a thick fog, threatening to obscure his recent triumph. He spotted a colleague from his department, Judith, a determined woman who had carved a niche for herself through sheer perseverance. The warmth in her smile felt both inviting and intimidating. "I saw your talk, Oliver. You were brilliant," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm infusing him with a sense of validation. "Your comparisons were fresh, profound even." Oliver's heart swelled, yet the shadows of doubt loomed large. Did she truly think so, or was it a facade cast to pacify him after years of struggle? "Thank you, Judith. It means a lot coming from you," he replied, but found the words tasted bitter on his tongue. This was a moment of celebration, a milestone, but the specter of his doubts insisted on hovering. Suddenly, he felt an overwhelming impulse to justify his presence, to share the journey behind his words. "Honestly, standing in front of that audience was one of the most nerve-wracking experiences of my life," he admitted, lowering his voice slightly as if revealing a secret. Judith tilted her head, brows furrowing slightly. "You're not alone in that feeling. It took me years to get comfortable presenting. What matters is that you keep doing it. Each time will build your confidence." Her words were a balm, yet he realized he had to confront the deeper threads woven into his narrative, threads of inadequacy, the haunting reminders of who he used to be. In that clarity, he felt an irresistible urge to seize this opportunity for authenticity. "I'm still grappling with a lot of self-doubt," he confessed. "The past, it can be hard to shake off, especially when it comes to putting myself out there." For a moment, he expected her to dismiss his vulnerability or offer a cliché-laden response. Instead, a knowing glimmer shone in her eyes. "I get that. We all carry our pasts. Use that discomfort. It can be a powerful fuel. Share it, and you'll not only build your own strength, but you'll inspire others to confront their shadows too."
The prospect of transforming his pain into empowerment struck a chord deep within Oliver. He understood now that his experiences could be reframed, not as burdens, but as tools for growth. The revelation illuminated the path forward. A blending of his personal journey with his professional aspirations could allow him to not only face his fears, but craft a narrative that sparked change. Yet just as jubilation swelled within him, a shimmering thought surfaced. Had he fully prepared himself for the consequences of this journey? Confronting the ghosts of the past might compel him to revisit old wounds, dredging up deeper insecurities. As Judith wandered off, a question lingered ominously in his mind. Would he summon the courage to engage in this deeper journey? Could he transform the vulnerability he felt into a new foundation for success? The tension settled on him like mist, wrapping him in an uncertainty that felt both daunting and enticing. Oliver stepped back, surveying the auditorium once more. He glimpsed the faces of those who had once belittled him, who now witnessed his transformation. A shiver of determination coursed through him. The time had come to face not just the applause, but the complexities of his past. What would emerge from this confrontation? Only time would unravel the truth hidden within his journey. Oliver stepped away from the crowd, determined to forge a different path, a path where self-doubt might transform into a catalyst for growth. The weight of the auditorium's silence haunted him. He had shared his truth in the spotlight, but now it was time to confront the shadows behind it. He could no longer rely on the past to define him, not if he wanted to embrace the future that awaited him. As he navigated the dispersing audience, he felt disconnected, like a spectator in a world where everyone else thrived effortlessly. He thought about Judith's words, how they had pierced through his self-imposed barriers. Each public speaking opportunity she had faced had equipped her with confidence she now seemed to wear unapologetically. In contrast, he felt like a jigsaw puzzle with missing pieces, each piece representing a moment of fear he needed to confront. The profound realization pressed upon him. If he hesitated to acknowledge those pieces of himself, his failures, his insecurities, he would never transform them into the strengths that could propel his narrative forward. With a deep breath, he decided to challenge himself further. Rather than retreat into the familiar comfort of self-doubt, he would actively seek out the uncomfortable truths that shaped him. A quiver of trepidation coursed through him as he recalled the faces that had doubted him, his peers, mentors, even family. He envisioned one in particular, a former mentor, Charles, whose critical eye could strip away even the slightest hint of enthusiasm with a single dismissive comment.
It was Charles who had unwittingly cemented Oliver's fears during his formative years, but today he understood that confronting this figure might hold the key to dismantling the mental cages that confined him. With resolute intent, Oliver decided to reach out to Charles, to request a meeting that would put his past anxieties to the test. A mixture of trepidation and exhilaration flooded through him. How would Charles react? Would he be defensive, or would this be an opportunity for growth for both of them? As Oliver drafted the email, his thoughts raced. The words streamed forth, powered by a fervent desire to reclaim his narrative. I would like to discuss how your critiques have influenced my journey and share how I've evolved from them. The email felt electric as he hit send, a daring leap into the unknown that pulsed through his veins. In the days that followed, he prepared himself for the possible outcomes. While doubt still lurked in the recesses of his mind, each moment of hesitation was met with a growing determination. He immersed himself in self-development materials, tapping into storytelling techniques and vulnerability, seeking ways to narrate not just his successes but the struggles that lay beneath them. Would this encounter with Charles dissolve the tight grip of his past? The thought haunted him, but underpinning it was the belief that fear should no longer triumph over his ambition. The hours spent anticipating Charles's response stretched into an agonizing eternity, yet with every tick of the clock, Oliver felt himself evolving, not just into a speaker, but also as an authentic human being. The prospect of empowering others by sharing his vulnerabilities became an irresistible driving force. A ping from his inbox interrupted his reverie. It was Charles' reply, a simple acknowledgement and the proposal to meet. That single line ignited a cascade of mixed emotions. Would he finally find closure? Could he use the past as a stepping stone instead of a crutch? As Oliver readied himself for the meeting, a new poisonous doubt curled its tendrils around him. What if he was unable to convey what he had intended? The time had come to lean into the tension, to confront the mentor whose voice still echoed in his memory. Would he break the chains or slip back into the shadows? Only the meeting would unveil the next chapter of his journey. The day of the meeting arrived, and Oliver felt the weight of anticipation tethered to a fear that he had lived with for far too long. He stood outside the cafe where he had arranged to meet Charles, taking a deep breath to steady his racing heart. No longer would he allow the haunting echoes of criticism to shape his identity or actions. This meeting was about clarity and closure, a definitive step towards empowerment. As he pushed the door open, a chime indicated his arrival. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped him as he scanned the room, eyes landing on Charles seated at a corner table. The mentor's presence was familiar, yet the shadows of doubt flickered. What would he say? Would he even listen?
"Oliver," Charles greeted, his expression unfazed by the passage of time. "You've changed since I last saw you. I read about your presentation." "Thanks, Charles," Oliver replied, his voice steadier than he felt. "I wanted to talk to you about that. Your critiques, how they shaped my journey." With an inscrutable expression, Charles nodded, inviting Oliver to sit. An undercurrent of tension wove through the air, as both grappled with unspoken legacies. "I felt compelled to share how your critiques, while difficult to hear, actually sparked a transformation in me," Oliver began. The words poured out, fueled by clarity rather than anger. The mentor raised an eyebrow, intrigued, if not defensive. "And what transformation is that?" "I came to realize that my insecurities were shackles I put on myself. Your critiques made me confront those doubts, forcing me to find my own voice." Oliver paused, gauging Charles's reaction. "I've learned to embrace my story, flaws and all, and not let past failures define me." For a moment, the silence hung heavily between them. Oliver held his breath, waiting for the familiar criticism to ripple into the conversation. Instead, something unexpected happened. Charles leaned back, seemingly contemplating the shift in Oliver's demeanor. "I didn't realize my approach affected you that way," he said finally, a hint of vulnerability breaking through his stoic facade. "I only wanted to push you to live up to your potential." "And I appreciate that, really," Oliver replied, wishing to flatten the tension. "But that pressure also filled me with fear. I felt like a failure for not meeting certain expectations. I want to shift the narrative now. I want to thrive despite the struggles." Charles watched him, perhaps for the first time seeing the growth anchored in conviction rather than the fears of an impressionable boy. "You've come a long way," he admitted, a begrudging acknowledgement that felt like a small victory. Oliver, sensing a breakthrough, pressed on. "I want to use my experiences to encourage others to speak their truths, to see failure as a stepping stone rather than a defining moment. I want to be a source of support instead of fearing the lash of criticism." The mentor leaned forward. "That's admirable, Oliver. I think you're onto something meaningful." A flicker of pride danced in his eyes, a validation that Oliver had yearned for during countless lonely nights. With that moment of acknowledgement solidifying Oliver's resolve, he felt a surge of clarity. He was no longer the haunted boy from Maplewood, but an emerging voice in a community that craved authenticity. "This isn't just about me, Charles. It's far bigger than that. I want to share my journey and inspire change, perhaps to show that we can reshape our realities despite the scars life has left us."
As their conversation deepened, Oliver found a rare warmth from his mentor that contrasted sharply with his previous experiences. With each spoken thought, he felt layers of past wounds began to unravel, and a sense of closure unfurled within him. When they left the cafe several hours later, it was no longer just a meeting filled with apprehension. It was a candid dialogue that had anchored Oliver's resolve further into the fabric of who he was becoming. The days that followed were filled with newfound confidence. Oliver took deliberate steps towards his goals. He registered for a workshop on public speaking, an intentional challenge to mold his voice even more powerfully. Each practice session was illuminating, allowing him to delve deeper into his personal narrative while wrestling with the intricacies of effective communication. He began developing a blog dedicated to sharing his journey and insights about the cosmos. He hoped to ignite curiosity, inspire others, and challenge the stigmas that had previously concealed his brilliance. He knew the path wouldn't be devoid of challenges. Each new endeavor would work to sharpen his resolve and push him out of his comfortable shadow. Through every blog post and every speaking opportunity that came afterward, Oliver came to understand something profound. He was not just redefining his own story, but inviting others to join him in a quest of discovery and acceptance. His classmates, once mere echoes of mockery, approached him with curiosity, surprised by the transformation that seemed nearly tangible. Conversations filled with questions and debates filled the hallways, transforming both his social landscape and the impressions lingering from past interactions. As he realized new connections flourished, he anchored into the belief that individuality could become a catalyst for collective growth. Oliver stood not just as a voice among many, he embraced the exhilarating challenge of becoming an advocate for resilience and authenticity. In this pivotal chapter, he had conquered his fear of the past. He emerged not solely as a conqueror of his challenges, but as someone committed to facilitating new dialogues about vulnerability, belief, and aspiration. As he stepped into every new day, Oliver held the keys to more than just his dreams. He held the promise that the cosmos, his limitless passion, was indeed within reach.
A sheer exhilaration washed over him. He had forged a path destined for self-fulfillment. Now was the moment for transformation, one filled with ambition, purpose, and the understanding that dreams, no matter how distant, are merely steps away. This is your moment to shine. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below. We want to hear from you.
Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.